feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the DaneMoore NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks, coming at you Wednesday afternoon. It's January 7th. I'm joined here in the studio by Britt Robson for his weekly appearance on the show. It's been a good week for the Wolves. We're 7 days into 2026, and the Wolves are 3-0 this month after another dominant win against Miami on Tuesday night. This all, of course, comes on the back of the blowout loss on New Year's Eve against Atlanta, which, I don't know, Britt, the thought that I'm just kind of having here, and I understand it's 2 games against Miami and the 1 game against Washington. It's not like the highest bar. I'm wondering if it feels to you like this team has turned a corner. Because I feel like when I'm watching them and not so much thinking about the opponent and I'm just seeing how they're playing, it does look to me like a team that is playing differently and is turning a corner for the better.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I'm more optimistic about this team than I've been at any time this season thus far. I think that the last 3 games have been the best they've played. And I understand that the Thunder, the Bucks, and the Knicks was another 3-game winning streak, which is a higher caliber opponent overall than the Heat, Wizards, and Heat, obviously. But the Wolves aren't playing to their opponent, whether it's a good opponent or a bad opponent. It's the first time I've really seen this team. They've had one-offs, but I haven't seen an extended period of time where I could tell that they were playing up to the game plan. They're playing up to their synergy, playing up to what they wanted to do, their best work, and that they would be playing the same way whether the opponent was a really good team or a really bad team. It was just a way of playing that was the right way to play. And that is all about engagement and focus and a desire to get serious, to be a serious basketball team, which is what we were promised by all of them in the preseason, which is what made this team so annoying. They didn't walk their talk, and they really talked a lot. They really wanted to say, we're continuity now, and we know what happens in the postseason with teams that have had this all year, and we have it like in the last 2 months or 3 months as they did in the 24-25 season. So they seemed aware that to be a serious team, they had to have a certain attitude. And I didn't really see that attitude until Atlanta really felt like a watershed moment. It felt like, are you going to be toxically dysfunctional or are you going to straighten up? And it could have been in the middle, which is probably the most likely option. It's been the option they've mostly chosen to kind of weave in and out of being toxically dysfunctional and locked in. But I do think Ant leaving the court, it's the kind of thing when your superstar, who after the Brooklyn game just 4 days earlier, another egg they laid, said, that's Timberwolves basketball, with a shrug. And he was just clearly not interested in talking. And I know it was kind of flippant on his part. But in print, it looked like that's Timberwolves basketball was kind of an indictment on the organization and the way it was. And then being in his hometown and getting embarrassed in his hometown in front of a lot of people he knew against a team that had lost 7 straight and just getting their ass handed to him for the second time in 5 days.
By a bad team.
And then he walked off with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, left the huddle. You're thinking, okay, if this isn't quashed soon, he's going to get into, it's going to be the De'Aaron Fox rumors. It's going to be or whatever. It's going to be one of those things where Ant is in play. Ant is unhappy. And if that happens, you can pretty much kiss your season goodbye and a lot of your foundation. Ant is the straw that stirs the drink. And so he and Finch have a relationship where they have done things that make it difficult for the other to stomach it for a while. I mean, Finch has come right out and really significantly criticized him on occasion, and Ann has done some things that make it really hard for Finch to embrace him. But they always wound up on the same page, and that relationship is very, very important. And I think more than any other factor, the reason why Finch is secure in his job is his relationship with Ann. If Finch loses that, his job will be in jeopardy just for that reason. And that didn't happen. In fact, the opposite happened. Finch and he talked about it and said, we dealt with it. It's behind us. And the Anthony Edwards we've seen the last 3 games has been fantastic.
Fantastic.
And the Rudy Gobert we've seen the last 3 games, fantastic. I mean, Julius Randle is pretty much kept to not his opening pace, but his pace after the first month of the season, which is a pretty high bar. And he's in the dust compared to what Ant and Rudy are doing right now. And he's not playing badly. He's just
not an indictment.
Obviously the third best player on the team right now.
Right.
So it's, and that filters down. I mean, you start to have that kind of performance from your key guys. Everybody else falls in line. Basketball becomes fun. And it remains to be seen. I mean, the thing about an 82-game season is teams, Oklahoma City is 6-6 or something ridiculous, or whatever it was, 4-4,
6-5, I think.
Yeah. I mean, just some insane number after they lost once in 24 games,
right?
25 games. So teams go through this off and on. The question now will be, how long can they sustain this?
But I think that's an important thing for us to define, right? Because they're going to have another bad game. It could even come next week.
Exactly.
And it could feel a lot like this.
And it didn't matter. It doesn't matter the opponent. It could be a bad game against, what.
But I'm saying we need to leave space for some of that.
Absolutely.
There does need to be some space for that.
It is inevitable.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like the Timberwolves are not going to go, 30-4 in their next games, or whatever it is. But if they play 650 basketball, they win 65% of their games, then they're legit. I mean, OKC has got some warts right now. San Antonio is young. Denver is decimated by injuries. The
Houston.
West, Houston is intriguing and has a really interesting style of play. And I've thought all year that they've been underrated. But the Wolves are in that mix if they keep their shit together.
Yeah. I look to Ant when I think about the turn the corner thing more than anyone, which sounds crazy given, how just productive Ant has been. Before he turned this whatever corner we're making up, he was having an awesome season.
He was.
Individually, and the Wolves were winning a bunch of games. I think what I'm trying to get across, and especially for people, if maybe you haven't watched all 3 of these games or any of these 3 most recent games, is it looks and feels different. When you're seeing a more professional, technical approach from the team at large, but specifically from Anthony Edwards.
Right.
And I thought last night was a great example of that. I thought all 3 of these games are a great example of this, of him playing effective and finding it easily. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I call it quality control.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they have safeguards. If things begin to flag, if things begin to slacken a little bit, they have resources that they are going to. If somebody's making a mistake, somebody is there because they're paying attention. Gobert especially has been, his anticipation, his thoroughness in finishing, his ability to know what isn't on his plate right now and immediately move to things that he can add to his plate that he didn't have to add before because he was too busy. That's a really mature response. And not getting into his own mind games and consistently knowing what the greater situation is. I thought he got a bad whistle last night. And it's hard to tell sometimes because he used to complain a lot, and whether it was a good whistle or a bad whistle. But the two refs beside Scott Foster both, I thought, made some really bad calls on him. And I don't know why he kept walking off the court and coming back. It might have been that his knee was bothering him. It might have been that he just wanted to cool down without getting a tech.
He doesn't go back to the locker room in those situations. So I think I think this is fair for people
but
to
he's
point out.
The area where Jaden McDaniels punched a wall.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's where he is. And when he picked up his second foul in the first quarter, he had to get subbed out early, right? Yeah. Foul trouble, and he walks back to the quote unquote locker room, and we all tweeted out or whatever. Right. And then when he picked up his fourth foul in the third quarter, he did the same thing. Which the optics of that are obviously bad on the back of Atlanta, but he's just in that hallway, and that's like, it also doesn't go out for the national anthem, and he stretches in this back hallway area back there. So that's where he's going. I mean, sometimes I don't know, maybe he went all the way to the locker room last night. I'm just saying, I've seen this many times, and he just goes like into the tunnel, basically, that back area where the security is. You know what I'm talking about. And
if he's getting his mind straight, it shows. Sure. His mind is straight. Mm-hmm. And he had, the usual jumping up and down with his arms outstretched, but it was over with. And it wasn't, and he was getting whistled for stuff that he wasn't getting the call on the other end. So there was a lot of reasons for him to be angry, and he kept his shit together. And if anything, I thought he drove to the basket and passed the ball too much last night. And mostly he has a tendency to get lazy and stay with his mid-range or his three uncontested situations, or try to, waste a lot of clock dribbling. If anything, I don't think he relied on what was a really sweet jumper last night enough. But what he did is put pressure on the rim and got his teammates involved, even when it may not have been the best basketball decision. It was the best game plan decision. And that, to me, indicates ants on the page that the coaches want him on, and that his teammates probably can respond to best. It's always better when your star is leading you in teamwork rather than leading you, like dragging the rest of the team to a victory. Mm-hmm. And that hasn't happened. I mean, he had 28 last night, 29, I think it was. Could have been 40, could have been 20. It wouldn't have mattered, because what he was doing was playing in the flow. Everybody's moving off the ball so much more than they were at the beginning of the season. Right. It's not your double ISO offense all the time. Even when people are isolating, people aren't waiting for kickouts. They're moving around. They're setting screens. They're trying to change gravity in terms of how the defense is defending. And it's just a much more pleasant scenario. Even when Randle and Ant were getting 1.3 points per possession on ISO or whatever, it just wasn't pretty. And it was hard to like it even when it was successful. The Wolves have been fun to watch at both ends of the court. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that everybody's moving without the ball. The ball is being moved, and quick decisions. Finch's old triad of great offense, which he admitted he was kind of abandoning the first month or two of the season. And they're back to it. And Ant, that can't be done without Ant.
Another reason I think they're turning a corner, or potentially turning a corner right now, is because this is when Chris Finch teams always turn a corner. And I went back through those numbers of December 31st and into the new year and what the Wolves do. And every year from where they ranked on December 31st in offense, they were substantially better than January, February, March, April, that pocket of time. First time that happened, I think you remember what I'm referencing, is on December 31st of 2021. The Wolves were 23rd in offense at that point of the year. You know, that's the
Yep,
D'Angelo
I
Russell
do.
team, Pat Bev, Vando, all those guys. They were 23rd on December 31st, and for the rest of the season, they were first in offense. The next season, the first Gobert season, they were 21st in offense at the end of the year and were 17th the rest of the way. The year after that, the really good year, the 23-24 season, they're 17th on offense, 15th the rest of the way after the new year. Then last season, they're 20th on offense on December 31st, and for the rest of the way, 5th is what I have written down here. And the net ratings are also doing it. It's not like the defense is getting worse. I just can't say it as like a blanket statement, because 23-24, they were number one in defense on December 31st. They were number one in defense.
They were
the rest
number
of
one in defense just about from wire to wire.
Mm-hmm. The defense is in most seasons has improved too, or kind of stayed in its top 10 range where it was at. But I think there's a truth to the idea that the Wolves offense does find itself more over the course of the season. Maybe in the second half of the year, you're playing more tanking teams, some of that sort of stuff, and you're a team that's going to the playoffs. Maybe that juices it a little bit. But I think this is real. And I think it's about the style of offense that they play. I think it's about the idea with young players in the offseason, Ant, Jaden, Nas, all these guys, even Julius. You know, you go off in the summertime, you work on your game, and you have these additive things you think that you want to bring to the table and, you know, and show in training camp and there. And because of that, the ball movement sort of dries up at the beginning of the season, and takes, as Finch would say, it takes a while for the cake to bake.
Right.
And it's been a pretty clear recipe. You know, you turn the oven to 400 and wait 3 months, and then the Wolves offense is good.
Well, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I directly asked him about this. I basically said, your offense always gets better. What is it about that? And he said, it's continuity, but every season is a blank slate. It says it's more continuity in season than it's continuity from season to season.
Sure.
And he said that you find out what players do best, and then you begin to tailor the offense and you begin to figure it out. He said, but you have the continuity of what they've done, but the continuity isn't just previous seasons. The continuity is what this particular edition of the team can do. And I think what is the relative demise of Mike Conley was a hurdle for this offense. And it took a while to figure that out. That was a speed bump, no doubt about it. And Mike is a spot asset now. He's not a durable asset. He's a spot asset. And so how do you keep your reliability without the durable asset of Mike Conley? That was an adjustment. I think DiVincenzo has been very important in that. His assist to turnover ratio is really high. His spacing that he provides creates a different type of offensive dynamic than what Conley provided. Conley did provide spacing, but it wasn't nearly Conley's shot selection was more clinical. DiVincenzo's shot selection is almost meant to be random so that people have to guard him.
It's like Dante brings spacing and Mike brings shooting.
Right.
Like those are weirdly similar but different things.
Right. But Dante hits enough of them, even from 27 feet, that you kind of have to guard him. And you also have, you know, the double post or whatever you want to call it of Randle and Ant. You've got Rudy
Randle and Ant, double post.
Well, I meant, you know, almost like a
horn
system.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking of
like a
post
horn
play.
system, but with two guys doing it.
Okay.
But anyway, and Jaden McDaniels has expanded his offense. All those things are ingredients in the cake that not only have to be baked, but are done at different times.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out how to like warm the ingredients that aren't ready yet without burning out the ingredients that are there. You have to make the mix of the cake be as consistent and wholesome as possible. And that can't be done unless the players are willing to participate in the process. And Ant and Randle, as good as they are, and one of the reasons why they didn't participate a lot was because what they would come up with is often as good as what the game plan would come up with. But hewing to the game plan enough that it's proven to be effective and gives them faith in it, gives the teammates faith that if they move without the ball or if they are ready to get the ball, that they will be rewarded, all of that stuff. And then I do think one of the reasons why the offense is suddenly a lot better is because the defense is a lot better and they're getting a lot more in transition. They're not taking the ball out of the basket. I mean, I know that the numbers can be what they are, but the eye test to me shows even when opponents are scoring now, it's because they're hot from outside or, Atlanta and Brooklyn, both of them just diced the Wolves in the paint.
Yeah.
Just killed them. And it created a situation where it needed to be addressed as a character issue and as an X's and O's issue. Figure out what it is that needs to be done and fix it ASAP.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Falling Knife Brewing Company, the Wolves bar you want to go to watch games with other Wolves fans. If you can't swing nighttime games, normally you got bedtimes, they got to navigate with kids. Well, this Saturday, the Wolves play the Cavs at noon. It sounds like a perfect day to make a Wolves Brewery Day happen. Again, like I said, it's Wolves Cavs on Saturday. Game starts at noon. Game will be on the projection screen, and the sound will be playing on the speakers. Perfect day to get out there. Also, this January, Falling Knife has their High January promotion going on. All THC beverages are $2 off this month in the tap room, and 4 packs of THC beverages to go are $4 off. You can see the grape vape can on the screen here on YouTube. It's delicious, and obviously a play on Grape Apes. I also like the Drip and Dream beverage they have. Tastes a lot like an orange creamsicle. If you're buying THC beverages already, why not get them from our friends over at Falling Knife? That's Falling Knife Brewing Company in Northeast Minneapolis. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks, and I want to tell you how you can pick games over at Prize Picks now. You can pick the winner of a game. You can pick against the spread. You can pick more or less on total points scored in a game, and you can even do futures. Like I said yesterday, you can pick on who will win the Super Bowl right now, according to Prize Picks odds. The Seahawks are the favorites, and you can go pick them or anybody else out there as well. To find this, if you're a frequent Prize Picks user, you are on the Players tab when you're putting together a lineup. You understand the top of the screen, click the Teams tab because the app defaults to Players. You can obviously use the Players tab, of course, to put together daily fantasy lineups for Wolves games or for the NFL playoffs coming up here as well. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, all you have to do is put in the promo code Dane when you sign up, and you'll receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code Dane. That's why I'm interested about this Cleveland 2 in a row because
they're a weird team right now.
Well, they're a weird team too, but they're a team that has more skill sets to dice you up on the interior with pick and roll game. Between Mobley and Mitchell and
Garland,
and Allen missed their last game. I think I'm not sure what his injury status is, but that's how you dice up the Wolves in the paint is by creating confusion in decisions while the Wolves are in coverage, right? And Miami doesn't really run pick and roll. Washington's not really a team, so there's going to be greater pressure put on the things that have been a lot better the last 3 games coming up here.
If Allen is healthy and Donovan Mitchell also sat out the other night when they trailed Indiana the entire game and then finally won at the end. But if the Cavs are healthy, Allen is the obvious matchup for Gobert, which makes Mobley the obvious matchup for Randle. That's tough on both ends of the court.
But you would have said the same thing about Bam and Ware.
No.
Similar.
Yeah,
Why
I know,
not?
but Rudy wound up on Bam a lot.
Rudy, I was thinking about it from the guarding them standpoint.
Oh, I see.
Oh,
Yeah.
but we were talking about dicing them up, so that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. So Julius has to guard Mobley and Gobert has to guard. Okay. Yeah. Allen.
And that's tough for Julius.
Yeah, it's tough for anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Mobley is an interesting. He can step out and hit the threes, but it isn't like
He's like 5 inches taller than Julius.
and
Longer,
it isn't like
you know?
he is the main guy on offense either. I mean,
Right.
Garland is fantastic off the dribble. Dante's going to have his hands full if that's the matchup. And Mitchell on Ant, or I would imagine Jaden will guard Mitchell.
Mhm.
Okay, so that means the catch and shoot guy is going to be Ant's. Yeah, it has to be Ant's matchup, I guess. Yeah.
For
Who is Ant guarding? Who's the fifth man on that team?
I started Sam Merrill last game. I watched that, but that was in place of Allen. Hunter, I think, comes off the bench. They've had so many injuries that their starting lineup is evolved.
They have a revolving door on that fifth guy. But anyway, the point being, it's a tough team, and they have underachieved all season, and they've had injuries, of course. Mobley was out for quite a while. Mitchell has been off and on. And I do think the Garland-Mitchell thing is always a little bit too much, not enough touches for both of them. But I
Still tough to guard, though.
Garland is, I actually think that if Garland did not have Donovan Mitchell beside him in the backcourt, his numbers would be phenomenal. I think he is a very, very potent offensive player, and I'm always impressed when I watch him play. Not so much on defense, but offensively, he's really good. And on defense, he doesn't need to be because he's got those two bigs. Same thing with Donovan Mitchell. I mean,
I think Mitchell is so low-key been a top 10 player for a long time.
yeah, I would put him more top 15, but I get what you mean.
I would really disagree with that.
Yeah.
I've just watched a couple of their games this week.
No, he's
thinking about
very
him
good.
more.
I don't want to say, but he is not good on defense.
No. I agree with that. I agree with that. And he's like 6'1" too. I mean, it's just some of that is.
But you're right.
size.
He is a bucket in all three levels.
He's
He's
gonna be a handful for Jade.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
Which
Right. And Jalen Clark will get some time. And but you're right. I mean, the greater point is that this is a step up. And so this will be
right.
A situation where it will test what I've just been raving about, whether or not this team can keep its focus and its synergy orientation open.
And what I was saying before is like, if it's not there on Thursday or Saturday when they play them in one of these games, I want to be careful about not being like, okay, that means the previous 3-4 games were fake.
Right.
Because what I'm looking at for this team is not the expectation that they're never going to have any more of these low energy, annoying type of games. What I'm looking for is the feeling that it's no longer part of their DNA. I mean, Finch said, remember last night, Finch said, it's just part of our DNA right now as a team. And
we get bored. Right.
Yeah.
I know.
And so that's what I'm looking for, I guess, in the final 40 whatever games this season.
I would agree with you to an extent. The Wolves just played the Heat twice in a 3-game span. The Cavs is obviously a home and home back-to-back, not back-to-back, but home and home, 2 games in a row.
Noon game
if the
on
Cavs,
Saturday too.
If the Cavs whoop the Wolves the way the Wolves handled the Heat in a very similar fashion, both games, constantly just ground them to dust in the second half of both games. If that happens with Cleveland on the Wolves, then I think we have a right to go back to thinking if the sky isn't falling, it's very cloudy.
Sure. Yeah, and that's would be fair because that's what I'm saying. That would be to me a representation that it is in fact in their DNA still, and that these 3 games were more of a blip. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, I think there's some delineation to make here with giving some grace.
Absolutely.
Without it.
Yeah. I mean, let's, if it's
being a full indictment.
If it's like the Christmas Denver game and they lose that way against the Cleveland Cavaliers team, I mean, the way I felt after Denver was, they were up 9 in overtime, but I get why they lost. And it's not a horrible loss to me.
Mm-hmm.
One loss to the Cavs or even 2 competitive losses are not enough, because I do think, I had the Cavs, as many people did, as the top seed in the East, at the beginning of the season. I think that they too understand it's getting late in the season now and it's time to make their move. And I'm sure that they have redoubled their focus. It's going to be 2 good games, I think. I think it will be, I think they'll probably split. And I don't think home and away has anything to do with it. I just think it's going to be fun and it'll be a good test.
I wouldn't rule out the idea of the Wolves grinding them down to dust either.
Right. Well, I mean, except that there's a lot to grind there.
There's a lot to grind there, and this isn't fair. But again, it's just in my mind because yesterday I watched them play the Pistons, and the Pistons are probably the most grind you down to dust team. But they did it, to the Cavs, and I think it's an important thing for the Wolves to bring to this Cavs matchup.
Exactly. Physicality,
force, and to the Rudy point, that's something that's really, really been here. Julius is inherently a force for player, and is too. Like, I would like this team just in general to develop more and more of that in their ethos, right?
I agree.
I think that's just winning in the NBA right now. When I turn on League Pass right now and I'm watching a random game, I have my spidey sense going off when I'm seeing these teams that are adopting and applying the physicality approach that Oklahoma City has kind of used as a hack. Which
the past means that no dribble is safe. If you are squared up to try to get to the rim, you are going to get collided with in a very, very intelligent manner. You're going to get people are going to be moving their feet so that they're well positioned, but they are going to be in contact with you. And it's kind of like the offensive and defensive lines in football.
Sure.
You can call a penalty on every play if you want to.
Right.
You could call a foul on almost every play now in the NBA.
That's the
if
hack.
it isn't off the screen, then it's off the on-ball action. And
can I just say I'm all for it. I think it's a good thing to be added into the game, and I know it's annoying, and I know Oklahoma City in particular is annoying with it. But we are getting to the point in the NBA at large where scoring is getting out of control. There's like 5 teams with the offensive rating over 120. And I feel like this is the league
that is good
fighting back.
Is 3-point shooting is still, I mean, the Curry era may be slightly on the wane, but you can tell that
the Ant era is here now.
I mean, what the Celtics are doing right now is insane.
Yeah.
And it's because Jaylen Brown obviously is having a phenomenal year.
That's another one of those teams. It's just physical when you turn it on.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, and Joe Mazzulla, who I used to make fun of, is in my pick right up now for Coach of the Year for what he's done with that team.
Yeah.
They bailed. They threw people off their roster just to get under the aprons. Because they knew it was going to be a year off, and they're 2nd seed in the East right now, for Christ's sake.
The thing is they would have had to throw some people off even if Tatum didn't do the Achilles. You know, some of it.
But the fact that they did, I don't think they would have lost everybody they lost. They wouldn't have traded Drew.
Maybe not. Yeah. It's just another example of the ramifications of this.
But the point is, they play physical basketball to your point, but to my point, they've got guys like Pritchard and Brown and all these guys who can shoot it. Derek White, they can all shoot it. Hauser. So it's having good 3-point production and being physical. That's actually one of the ways Oklahoma City doesn't have. They still need that high volume 40% 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Mitchell, AJ Mitchell is pretty good at it.
Oh, my guy, Isaiah Joe.
That's right. He must not be so good on defense. He doesn't get the minutes.
I don't think so. He's a souped up Johnny Juzang. Let's talk about Dante DiVincenzo a little bit. He's been one of those ingredients in the cake baking.
Yep.
I thought it was interesting. Britt wrote a big column over at MinPost on DiVincenzo. Came out yesterday, and my initial reaction, I didn't know what you're gonna write about, but I see you tweet it out, and I was like, oh, DiVincenzo article. I'm like, kind of not shooting well at all, you know, and so I thought that made it a interesting time to write about DiVincenzo because the number one thing of his game, the 3-point shooting, has not been there as recently. I wrote it down. Where is it?
He was 4 of 8 last night, but prior to that, he was like 2 for 20.
It was 11 of 45 in the 6 games prior to last night, 24% from 3. But what's interesting, and I'll let you talk, but the ways that he's found the ability to impact the game, even in the 1 for 8 nights or the 1 for 9 nights, and the 1 for 8 nights and the 1 for 9 nights do come in the course of a season for a high volume shooter. I mean, Dante had this bad stretch. He's still over 40% on the season on very high
in the
volume.
Middle of November, a 4-game stretch in the middle of November. Ant was 3 for 30 from deep.
Yeah.
And he's as good a 3-point shooter as in the NBA, aside from Curry right now. And so Jaden McDaniels went like 2 for 17 over 3-game span. Julius Randle started off really hot and had like 3 weeks where he hit like 25% of his threes. It just happens unless you're really elite. And even if you're really elite, it can happen for a short amount of time. But 3-point shooting wasn't even, I didn't even really think about it. It was his attitude after the 2 losses. I really feel like by far the biggest issue for the Minnesota Timberwolves this season is character. If they can be a high character team that just understands what's necessary to win, they will have a lot better chance of getting close to their goals because they've got a lot of great ingredients and they've got a general manager and a coach that prides themselves on assembling and then making chemistry happen with those ingredients. And it just has been stubbornly not happening. And DiVincenzo is the only guy I see for a while there. Rudy just does his, we all need to be accountable. And, Rudy's strength and weakness is that he is utterly predictable about who he is, what he does, and how he responds. So Rudy can't turn it up a notch. I mean, Rudy isn't going to throw things in the locker room and,
Should I read the quote?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's just from Britt's article, but it's a DiVincenzo quote. After Brooklyn, the Brooklyn game, DiVincenzo was asked about, what they need to do. So this isn't an issue.
How are they turning the corner on you all night? Is that was the question that set up that answer.
Yeah. And DiVincenzo said, just do it. There's only so much you can talk about.
That's after the Atlanta game.
Oh, this is after the Atlanta game? Okay, well, I'll still read this.
That's right.
Just do it. There's only so much you can talk about. How many meetings, how many film sessions, how many times does Finchy have to talk to us? It's the compete factor. If you compete, you give yourself a chance to win every single night. If you don't compete, you're relying on talent, and sometimes the shots don't fall. The compete factor is the biggest thing. If you compete, it covers up so much, and it's just not there.
Right.
That was 3 games ago. Weird team. Weird team.
So I do think what makes that effective is he is a scrapper on the court. He has, he leads the team in steals, for one thing.
And scratches on his arm.
Yeah, and I mean, he's broken his nose garishly at one point, and he's got a cut over his eye after the, first Heat game, I think it was, or whatever. And, he's a feisty guy, but he does things like covers hard when an assignment breaks down, he covers hard. I think he's a gambler, but a disruptor in transition defense. He doesn't play it safe in transition defense, which I think is a really good thing because you're already at a disadvantage. You might as well try to sell out for something really good to happen rather than keep the odds that you're going to stop this team 30% of the time. You might as well make it be 80% or nothing. You know, I agree with that philosophy because it shows it's a game-changing type of, or at least a momentum-changing type of action. And I think he strives for that kind of stuff. He strives for it on his three-pointers, obviously. One of the reasons he likes to take a quick release from outside is to make a splash, literally, in terms of, or not figuratively, obviously, to have it be, all right, we're back to this, or his offensive rebounding, the way he moves pace up the floor, the passes he gets off. I just think that he's got a lot of grit and he hustles all the time. And he reminds me of what this team always has when they're really good. They had it with Pat Bevan Vando. They had it with Kyle Anderson, Slow-Mo,
Nikhil,
and they had it with Nikhil. And the fact that Slow-Mo and Nah have been gone 2 seasons, each succeeding season, that sapped a lot of that type of thing. And Ant can do it, and Julius does it. I mean, everybody gets riled up and makes a play, but somehow it can't be the star. It needs to be somebody who kind of is a value added. It's kind of like, if the banana is great on a banana split, great. But if the sauce is different, it's a different banana split,
Sure.
Having the ingredient that makes something piquant or makes something just shift your opinion of what's going on, that comes from guys. I mean, everybody I just mentioned, Pat Bev, Vando, Slow-Mo, and Nah have played for numerous teams already. And they don't get signed because teams get bound up and they can't afford them in the new NBA economy. But they're vital when they're there with their role. I mean, Dante is a $12 million player. He'll make 14 next year, in the last year of his contract. It's a sweetheart contract, but he's also not a $25 million guy. If you have to choose Dante or Jaden McDaniels, you'll choose Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah.
And even Nas, for that matter, although it's a closer debate.
So,
but the point is that those are exactly the kind of guys who need to be the spurs on your shoes, who need to be the guys who just give you a little kick when you need to get goosed. And he's good at it. There's a reason he's been around winning teams, I think, is because he can contribute that. So
I think an interesting segue of this, which I wasn't really planning on talking about, though, is the idea of trading DiVincenzo.
Yeah.
Which I think in a weird way, you just kind of made the case for and against it.
Exactly.
And it's
I
an
feel
interesting.
That way. I feel like he is expendable but vital.
Yeah, and that's why it would just, to me, very broadly, it would need to come in. Him would need to be going out in a package that brings back a no-brainer star player that unambiguously is going to help your team.
Right.
Not one of those sort of middling sort of guys where I guess Trae Young would certainly be, that comes with a lot of risk.
Right.
And, you're just not as bankable in that sort of way. Just to remove Dante because he's a valuable trade asset to other teams and just like to cash that in for picks or something like that would be unwise right now, given where this team is at in its competition, trying to be a contender this season because he does provide this ingredient
Exactly.
that is largely absent elsewhere on this team. I struggle to include him in fake trades for $40 million players, but he almost has to be included in any trade for a $40+ million player. Not just because of the value he brings as a player and as an asset, but because you got to make that money work.
Exactly. You need to make the money work, and you can't be playing the old, fanboys game of, we'll trade you 3 of our worst assets for your good one. It's a 3-for-1 deal. It's a good trade. And Dante would be valuable on a lot of different teams because he has that role. Just as Na, I just saw Na being able to fit in on a variety of teams.
Sure.
I feel that way about Nas. I can think of a half dozen teams right now. It'd be great to have. Those are the kinds of guys that a smart general manager knows who to lose and who to keep. And they're not always going to be right, but they need to be right more than often, more than they're wrong. And so
I wonder what the DiVincenzo contract extension talks were like this past summer, because it was one of those where you could have done it 2 years. It would have been early,
and I just don't think they are up against it. You do not want to create problems for yourself.
I'm just even saying, like, what was the number?
I know.
Like, obviously there's two different sides.
In today's economy, it depends on how long you'd sign them for. And it depends on what your roster's like, all the, things. But I can see him being a $20 to $22 million player at the high end.
I'll take the over.
Huh?
I'll take the over on that.
Would you?
I think so. I mean, also it's 2 more years from now.
Because of the inflation, right?
Yeah, 2 more years from now.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that could be at the same time.
Like, what's Josh Hart make right now? 25, right? Something like that?
Probably. But Josh Hart is kind of like a rich man's DiVincenzo.
Well,
I mean, he rebounds. His rebounding and defense. He's a better rebounder and a much better defender than Dante. He doesn't shoot as well, but he's actually shooting pretty well from 3 this year. If it was a flat trade between Hart and
I meant more so just as like
Josh Hart.
I don't think that's an option. I
think you're right about the type of player that Dante is very much like Josh Hart. And it's kind of ironic that they were at the same place. And Bridges actually also is kind of that type, although his star is faded and his contract is inflated at the same time. But of those 3 players, in terms of value, Dante at 14 is probably a better value than Josh Hart at, like, if he is making 25.
This page won't load, but yeah.
And certainly better than Bridges, I think, is over 30.
Well,
if he isn't, I was just thinking of he will, because they gave like 4 number ones for him or something.
Right. But which is a good signal again of, the
type.
Yeah, and the value in the type in the free agency market.
And I mean, that's how it wasn't going to be Randle for Cat. It had to be Dante in that mix.
Right.
I mean, that's why the trade was made.
Yes.
Because Finch was unsure about Dillingham, and they needed a guy who could be a combo guard and a guy who was a winner.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I just happen to really like Josh Hart. I think, Ragu is a really good, obviously I just wrote a column.
I do need to correct your article. And I've done some background research on the origin of Ragu. You said it originated in New York. No,
it didn't.
My best friend growing up, a big Milwaukee Bucks fan. And so
it originated in Milwaukee.
And so I asked him, I was like, it was Ragu was in Milwaukee. He goes, yeah, we definitely were calling him Ragu. And he said it was a Villanova thing, which started. I do think
that makes a lot of sense, because Philly.
Yeah. I also don't think Dante likes it very much. So
what can you
that's fine for us talking about it, writing about it.
I got Michael Grady on my side now, though.
Yeah, you do. I think you got him on your side with that one.
I did. I hear him. He makes for goose shout outs
He
all
does.
the time, man. I was overjoyed because I was out on a lonely limb for a while.
You were.
Here's my take on that is that guy needs a nickname. There are some guys who need nicknames, you know.
Sure.
You can't call Kyle Anderson. You just can't do it, you know?
Yeah, right.
And Anthony Edwards can't be Anthony Edwards, you know? He can't be.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Harry's, and I think it's so great that something like Harry's exists. Remember back in the day when we had to go to the store to purchase razor refills, and those razors were always so expensive. They were locked up in that box. I think in addition to it being a high-quality razor, it's just so convenient with Harry's. The best part might just be that price point. Harry's owns their own world-class blade factory in Germany. No outsourcing, no middleman. Because of that, they keep the entire process from steel to shelf cheap. Harry's can keep the cost low. Why pay $30 for refills when Harry's gives you better blades for a fraction of that? They just sent me a new handle for this blazer. It's made out of metal. It's heavy. And I think it keeps the razor itself feeling new. It's a barbershop quality shave with German engineered blades. If you don't love your shave, if you try it, Harry's will make it right. No questions asked. A risk-free trial means there's zero downside to giving it a shot. For a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/DaneMoore. The set includes the all-new Harry's razor, one refined 5-blade cartridge, and a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Just head to harrys.com/DaneMoore to claim this offer, and after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
If it wasn't Ann, it would have had to have been something else, you know. But there are just some guys that I don't know.
You know who you can't call Nashawn? Bones Hyland. That's another one right there. Let's talk about Bones a little bit, because I think this is
please do
related. You know, point guard.
I already copped to being wrong about Bones, but that was the audio that never was.
Yeah. The audio. We've been going back.
Last podcast, I already conceded the fact, and it did. Remember how I said at the time? When you were bullish on Bones, and I said this reminds me of the Nas conversation where you were really high on a guy and I just don't feel it, and you wound up being right. I could be wrong about this, but I don't feel Bones that way. And lo and behold,
you've been coming around to him. I mean, we're just sitting at games and our mysterious podcast that didn't happen. You a week ago, you had already started rebounding.
But now, I mean, the guy has like an 18.6 net rating in the last 10 games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a huge sample size, but it's a relatively large sample size for a guy who's now regularly coming off the bench for anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
And the Wolves are thriving. And all I can think of, it sure as hell isn't the defense, but that guy pushes pace, and he pushes pace in a way that gets people involved early, and then he's moving around. He is he stirs the drink.
Right.
The offense is better. It's crazy to me the defense is better. I don't know why, but maybe it's because if the Wolves are playing at a high pace, they're just naturally getting back more. And I do think.
Well, I'll add one thing in there.
Yeah.
So the role that has been for like the last 2 weeks is Bones comes in for Ant.
Yeah.
End of the first quarter, end of the third quarter, or I guess start of the second quarter, start of the fourth quarter. And the Wolves are really killing it in those minutes, which obviously Bones is partially responsible for. That is when you're playing, those minutes are against the team's worst offensive group often. Right. And the Wolves are increasingly having Rudy out there in those minutes too, which I think is also just like a really smart thing in general to do with Rudy. Play that Utah did that back in the day. Go look at like Rudy in second quarters net ratings in Utah. That Utah team destroyed bench units out there because they couldn't score. You know, and so I think that helps Bones some too. He's also clearly a lot more intentional about defense.
Yes.
He's even more intentional about like trying to screen and stuff, just playing with a little bit more
he understands.
He just doesn't have he
sees the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And he did, the guy remade his attitude.
Yeah.
And
I said like a month ago, it was Nikhil vibes of just like taking it seriously, cherishing the opportunity, and always doing something
right
with the opportunity. It's
right. And even he's not hitting a shot all of a sudden, and it doesn't matter. They're still thriving with him. See, you're looking at the net rating, aren't you?
No. I finally the
Josh Hart's
Knicks
money?
page. Yeah, okay. Give me your
27,
19.5, and then 21 next year.
That's a good price for him.
Yeah. That's
I
a
told
little
you.
less than I thought. And then Bridges is at 25, and then Bridges signed the long-term extension where he spikes up to 34.
Yeah,
long
that's the
term
one that was
34,
hurt.
36.
That's gonna hurt.
Yeah, I mean, he's 4-year 150.
He's not a
extension.
$34 million player.
It is out into the future. It's about
he's one of
21%
those guys that was fantastic on defense, and when he got a chance to lead a team on offense, a bad team on offense, he crushed it, and his defense has never been the same. It is. It just has never been the same. I mean, he can still do it,
right?
But he is not the defensive stopper he was, and he was really good. And I always knew he had game on offense, but it's always a danger. You get somebody a taste of not having to bust your ass all the time. It's a concern with Jaden sometimes.
I was going to say, that's what I always think of with Jaden is the Bridges sort of arc, which is not a bad one. Bridges isn't bad.
No, he's not bad.
It wasn't a linear progression.
I would rather have the Bridges in year 3 than the Bridges in year 8, though.
Bridges in year 3. Yeah. Well, I mean, that
because
team
which I imagine is the Bridges now or close to it. But in his first, in his 3rd or 4th year, he was really good on defense.
That Suns team was.
Yeah.
Was really good. Sorry, I distracted us from your bones thoughts when I looked at the screen and saw that Josh Hart.
Oh, that's okay. I just think that you're right about the idea that he's got the opportunity. He's not making shots, which, if you recall, was Naw was not a reliable shooter, except in the grand scheme of things. He'd wind up being average or above average, but it would fluctuate. And I think we'll probably get some of that from Bones. What I like about Bones is, and this is not helpful to Dillingham, Bones has a really good first step and can get to the cup.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing that Dillingham always had. He had that as an NBA skill. And the fact that the guy he's really more or less competing with now for those minutes also has that skill is not good for Dillingham.
And is getting all the way to the backboard, whereas Rob kind of gets in there and then has to throw the arc up above the rim protector.
Well, and Bones has the underhand. He's got the banker beneath the blocker down a lot better than, kind
of like under.
Dillingham gets housed on that a lot.
Yeah, not good in the Dillingham thing.
What was it? 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I said Dillingham should play over Bones.
You're giving me a lot of credit on this Bones thing. My Jalen Clark over 36% from 3 argument that we had is not aging well.
Okay,
the other direction.
It's nice to be right once in a while. It's
not over.
It's not over. But you feel it. You feel it in Jaden's body. Jalen's body. He has, as is often the case with him, he has adapted well, and he's perfected the up fake and the floater along the baseline now as the way to avoid shooting that corner 3. And he's actually been pretty good at that.
Do you remember his flailing driving shot yesterday?
Well, that was because
I know he
got caught in a merry-go-round of his own making. And he knew that Rudy could have been there for a lob. I think he tried to lob it. I don't think he tried to shoot it because the ball went almost straight up.
It went in a very weird.
It was very comical.
And I'm only laughing about this because he's also like weirdly good at these like drives where he just chest to chest goes through people. But
no, that one.
I always pictured that it could go that wrong. Even on the good ones. I'm glad that he's getting a real role though too.
And I asked Finch before yesterday's game. I've been noticing he's been getting and one a lot, probably 4 or 5 times in the last couple of weeks. And I don't remember it happening at all, but I'm sure it did once or twice, in previous times.
I got a stat for that.
Oh, do they?
And 1% last year, 0.
Never.
What percentage of shooting fouls drawn did the player also make the shot? 0. 26.1% of his shots this season have shooting. What percentage of shooting fouls drawn did the player also make the shot? Yeah, that's good. That's well above average for a wing, which is it's because he's just going right through you. Like he said, I'm not shooting this. If I'm not shooting this quarter 3, I'm getting all the way to 4 inches from the rim, and then.
But it's same thing. I'm talking also about defense.
Oh,
the fact that he gets and one on. People are beating him off the dribble. Cam Thomas beat him like twice in 1 quarter when they played Brooklyn. Powell did it to him, which is no embarrassment. But other people, put it this way.
Say what Finch said about him. That was interesting.
It was really good answer, I thought, which was length of time, meaning, you're not coming in and being your 100% burst and you're doing the thing. Also, he's defending everybody the same way, which 2 things happen on that. Different skill sets mean you have to, experienced defenders learn that you need to vary how you play somebody. And also you're more easily scouted if you defend somebody the same way. So I thought those 2 aspects, is there something I'm leaving out?
No. The thing that stood out to me most was Finch saying that Jalen just guards guys the same way, no matter who it is. And Finch said, he's good at that way, but he's learning and they're learning that if it's the same way all the time.
And I think that's where a lot of those and ones are.
Right. I think he also said Jaden went through this earlier in his career too, which is also,
absolutely true.
Yeah.
No, it was a great answer.
A couple more things up through really quick. How does this version of Gobert change your thinking about this team from a ceiling standpoint of what they can do? Okay, that's part 1 of the question. Maybe we can just leave that there.
Okay.
Very different. How does this version of Gobert change your thinking about this team from a roster construction standpoint? And I mean that from looking at the trade deadline. Does getting, frankly, a better version of Rudy Gobert than I think we even imagined, right?
Yes.
I don't think we imagined this version of him.
I think,
not to overblow what it's been, but I didn't think he would ever get to be, I didn't think it would be a conversation on January 7th that Rudy Gobert in the 25-26 season might be better than Rudy Gobert in the 23-24 season.
I agree. And I would, I think I'd take that argument. I think he is better.
That's crazy.
Yes, it is crazy.
And it's because of the offense.
It's a shame that, he's been so dragged and got, he gets punked sometimes in the playoffs. He is a player that has loud deficiencies and really quiet strengths. And but his impact on the defense this year, you begin to realize that when the Wolves aren't playing good defense, it really is because he has too much to do trying to cover everyone else's ass.
Sure.
Because when the perimeter is when the Wolves are gap helping really, really well, and Rudy doesn't have to worry about it as much, he's dominating the boards. He's doing more never minds where he can concentrate on the one guy who's coming at him rather than 2. I just think if we get this kind of play from Gobert, and it's very unlikely he can sustain this. I think like the team itself, he'll have sine waves. It'll be better or worse. But if we can have the mean be higher than the mean of 2 years ago, they're a championship contender. And that's the first time I've used those words for the Timberwolves. this season, and I'm still would not bet on that. But I would say the odds, especially given what we've seen from OKC, San Antonio, and Denver, I would frame this season as a boom or bust season now. I would go for the ring. And I would not necessarily have done that before. Ironically, I think it removes, to the second part of your question, unless you can get a Gafford or a Time Lord, Robert Williams, for
cheap.
Unless you win that trade the way Connolly won the D'Lo Connolly trade, where you get so much more than you give up, I think it's still really hard, because I do think Berenger is that guy. He's just not going to be that guy this year and probably not next year, but he is that guy.
Yeah. So that's what prompted me to ask this. I want to bring it up is 2 weeks ago. I started bringing up I think this backup center thing has to happen.
I know. In fact, we talked about it.
Yeah, we did. I brought it up multiple times, I think, to an annoying degree to listeners. And as I was thinking about the idea of, like, if this is Gobert, how do you approach the trade deadline differently? And I think it's, if you're having this Gobert, the need for a backup center is down, even if my reason for needing a backup center had very little to do with Rudy.
Yes.
It's just, even in the last couple of weeks, Rudy has just been so much better and so much seeming like it can stay here at this level, that I go, well, maybe Rudy does just play like 38 minutes a game in the playoffs.
Right.
And that just solves a lot of your, Reed and Randle issue that you have when he's off the floor. It was such a flashing light to me, because I do not think Reed and Randle will work against a good team in the regular season or the playoffs. But it was a flashing light to me because Rudy usually doesn't play as much in the playoffs as he does during the regular season, and Fitch has consistently gone to him less in that time. So there's just more need. But if this is Rudy offensively, then there's less need to take him off the floor in the playoffs, which means there's less of a need for a backup big at the trade deadline, which I said, and I think you agreed, was at that time my number one.
Yeah, I know it was your number one. When you posed that question to me in the audio that never happened, I said a backup point guard.
Okay, you said that.
But over the course of the next 15 minutes of our talking, you kind of swayed me. I mean, you had a well-formulated argument because you talked about it before, but your points made sense. And I walked away from that conversation saying, I can see his point, and maybe, put it this way, I was a lot more on the fence about it.
Yeah.
I don't think either one. I am a status quo person, a lot more than most are. A lot of people.
But you just said go for the championship.
Yeah, but I think going for the championship, beware of unintended consequences. Sure. I think lean into. I guess what I mean by that is,
I don't think that lines up. I don't think you can be a status quo guy and have that be.
I think you can. I think that. I think what you do is you keep your rotation taut. It's like last year. Forget about Dillingham, forget about Shannon, and begin to get your reps and this year's in-season continuity down, and keep reminding somebody what this season is all about. And if you can pull a Mike Conley deal, whether it's a center or a backup point guard, and you'll have to change things, but you don't have to change the basics, I would not be opposed to that. I just think the Wolves' best chance of, I think, sustaining what they have over the last 3 games in a manner that, as we talked about, probably 40 minutes ago, allowing for the occasional lapse that is inevitable. If they can play 650 basketball the rest of the way and go into the playoffs with a home court in the first round, but not the second or thereafter.
So third or fourth seed.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I think that they have a lot of experience deep into the playoffs. They have hunger.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Ant and Gobert, who for different reasons really need it on their resume, and have different ways their pride manifests itself. I don't know. I mean, I like those chances. I just think you can't keep trying to force. I mean, Shannon's net rating is like jaw-droppingly awful.
Mm-hmm.
You can't keep throwing him out there for 8 to 10 minutes. It's the definition of insanity after a while. And I hope this ages badly. I mean, I hope if they do that, he turns out to be a valuable
I'm very
piece.
interested to see if he plays once he's back in, because I kind of think he will.
I know. They love him.
Jace had a good point when we recorded on Monday. He goes, he's never been healthy and DNP'd in a game.
Right. I know.
Which I actually didn't go back to verify, but when he said that, I'm like, oh, that's true. There's been plenty of games where he only got that one shift and then didn't come back in the second half.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure that every game that Shannon has been healthy for,
they give him
they
every
play.
opportunity. And some of it is he's mature. He's plug and play. He's your classic guy that, was a star on his college team, and yet because of all the legal bullshit he had to go through, was a late first round pick. But he's a peer of McDaniels and Bones. I think he's like 24, 25 years old.
Yeah.
So now's the time.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, it's just been phenomenally bad.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm talking like not even close to being single digit negative,
Right.
like minus 15 or something. If you're giving a team 15 points of possession, or 100 possessions, 15 points a game, essentially, as a deficit when you play them.
Yeah. That's a lot. That means numerous times over the course of the season, when you were out there for 5 minutes, the opposing team went on like a 14-2 run.
Yeah.
Like numerous
times. It's just rough.
My guess of, as the trade deadline comes around, what's going to happen in like when we're looking at trades, hypothesizing trades, is it's going to be clear that it's uncomfortable to make a lot of these trades, like we talked about with DiVincenzo. You got to go get this guy. You would need to have DiVincenzo in the deal. And I think it's going to lead back to where we were at the last trade deadline, which was a lot of focus on it being Julius Randle.
Right.
That is the one that's traded. And I want to talk about it through the lens of, if they traded Julius Randle, what would they be missing? Because I think the answer is a lot.
Yes.
But I think that needs to be effectively like quantified before you really get out there and start considering trading him. Because if you were to trade Julius Randle, you wouldn't have Julius Randle, which is a very important cog in this Wolves offense right now that is short on individual creators. He is one of the major engines in the offense right now. And what we could say, there's a ready-made starting power forward that you can elevate in Naz Reid. Naz Reid is not but just is not going to be the same thing. You're not going to just play isolation through Naz Reid. They never do that, Well,
not only that, but he is your low post presence. Rudy, the longer Rudy has the ball in his hands in the low post, the more the odds go down that something good will happen. So Rudy
like that post-up possession last night. Dribbled, then did his shoulder. Dribbled. It's funny.
And Naz is you can't station him down there. If Naz is in the low post, it's because he's gotten there off the bounce, and he's really good at that.
Mm-hmm. Rolled up a smaller player, and
or even like every now and then he does do the crab dribble, but it is it's a different dynamic. And it's not, quite frankly, if Julius Randle is on a roll, he is a machine of assist or bucket.
Yeah.
At the very least, you can't argue with the contested shot because he got to wanted to get, and it is a decent look for him, or that guy he passed it to is open and should hit that shot. That's what he gives you when he's on.
Sure.
His susceptibility to getting flummoxed by traps, I think, is important, just as Rudy sometimes has significant playoff circumstantial weaknesses. I think Julius has that circumstantial weakness of teams that know how to pressure you from different angles quickly and aggressively. He is used to being the initiator. When he's not the initiator, he has a tendency to want to fight back. And when he fights back, if a team is really good at, ganging up on you with their hands up, as Oklahoma City is, you're going to be turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that is the vice in the risk reward area, but they've worked so hard to make this fairly smooth, and it takes pressure off Ant. It takes pressure off Rudy, even though you don't know it, but Rudy doesn't have to be the guy. Rudy's in the dunker spot. Rudy's not, in a place where he can.
He's like effectively involved in the offense, not overly involved in the offense. And that's
he's
due
a
to
pick and
Randle's
roller.
presence.
He's a pick and roller. It's just, it would have to be that Jaden McDaniels takes a lot of that playmaking and interior scoring. And I have faith in him. I just don't want to see that have to happen in the middle of a tight playoff race, adjusting to Randle's absence on the fly. I could see Randle being traded in the offseason as part of a plan to move Jaden McDaniels into that power forward slot.
Sure.
But I cannot see it in what's going to, injuries may all sort this out anyway. I mean, that's the thing that's weird. The Wolves have had incredibly good injury luck.
I think, too, if you're trading for Julius Randle, you're trading out $30 million, so you're likely getting back a player that makes a lot more than that, that is going to, that just in and of himself, if you did it at the trade deadline, would be very hard to integrate mid-flow of the season, which I think is a detracting factor in this.
Exactly.
Again, if there's somebody, there's better players in the NBA than Julius Randle. Yeah. If you can get one of those better players for Julius Randle, I'm not saying not do it, but there's some risk associated
what did we
with that.
just talk about with Finch? One of the reasons the Wolves improve as things go along is Finch notices the continuity in season of what has happened.
Yeah. Yep.
And things get designed that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's you got to scrap that.
Right.
Because Julius, and also, by the way, you've got to deal with an embittered Chris Finch. Because if Julius Randle isn't around, he's not going to be a happy camper.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to think about all the times that Julius could have won a game for him and didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Julius Randle will be traded simply because I've said this many times. I think Julius Randle is Chris Finch's guy. I think Rob Dillingham is Tim Connolly's guy. And if there's any distance in what is a very tight relationship between those two guys, Finch and Connolly, it's those two players. And I think there's kind of a truce.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Dillingham, I've got Randle, or vice versa. And they may both be right. But right now, Finch's guy is more necessary.
Yeah. I know you can't do this trade. It wouldn't work. But in a vacuum, if the Wolves just traded Julius Randle for Trae Young and it was a direct swap, just like that,
my pen would be so fucking dipped in poison, you wouldn't believe it.
That's saying
Trae Young.
But look how far you've come on Julius Randle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There was plenty of poison
but
pen.
Even when I was down on Julius Randle, I wouldn't want Trae Young. Oh my God. Trae Young is a loser. I'm sorry. Zach LaVine is a loser. There are some players that you can't have on your team. They lose games for you.
There's I saw an update on, according to Shams, Trae Young has the Washington Wizards as his top desired
I am not
destination.
surprised.
Yeah.
They only wish they had another Jordan Poole to throw at him.
So you're out. So Britt's out on Trae Young. But you get what I'm talking about.
Trae Young?
No. I'm not. Me too.
What's his usage rate?
More than available.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Ant waiting while Trae Young pick and rolls with 3 other guys?
Yeah.
Because that's what he does. He does very, very well. I mean, the Trae Young, Clint Capella pick and roll for the Atlanta Hawks absolutely destroyed the Timberwolves on more than one occasion.
Sure.
And that is something, he is as good as there is in the NBA at that. And it's a fundamental play, and it's great to have. If you didn't have a tremendous ISO player like Anthony Edwards, it might be somewhat valuable. But then again, you'd have to compensate for the fact that Rob Dillingham is already twice as good on defense as Trae Young is now.
Yeah, maybe.
So I mean,
I hear you. I do think, though, not Trae Young specifically, but if you're talking about a bigger trade and a bigger money player coming back to the Timberwolves in a trade, it will probably be a player who is has an uncomfortable history of fitting in, as was the case with Rudy Gobert. And you go, what the fuck? Why did they just trade for a center? They have Karl Anthony Towns. Or when they traded for Julius Randle, you go, why did you do that? You went to the conference finals with Karl Anthony Towns as your power forward. Like, when you get, especially in this economy, in this salary cap environment, to get highly talented players, front offices need to do weird Tim Conley type stuff like this, where they find a efficiency on an undervalued, depressed asset. And Trae Young definitely meets that. But I'm not talking about Trae Young. I'm not talking about Trae Young. I'm talking about in general. There's other of those.
I have a trade in that bailiwick.
Okay, cool.
I understand usual caveats. Trade talk is silly. I won't go into the masturbation analogy. That moment has passed. But
now it's here again.
How quickly it passes.
Yeah.
But Anthony Davis for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and some other thing, just loaded up.
Mm-hmm.
I think because he gets hurt all the time and because he has a checkered career in some ways, Finch loved him in New Orleans.
It's true.
Tim Connolly would love him next to Rudy Gobert. Can you imagine that? I mean, as a
I
defense,
could think of one person who might not like him who works for the Timberwolves. Dell Demps. Drafted him 9 years. That was hell, that whole Pelicans experience. And I don't know exactly what all went down with that, but I know who does know Anthony Davis better than anybody. In a front office. It's Dell Demps, who's the assistant general manager.
And you're talking about undervalued assets.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm
talking about the ceiling.
Fair.
I mean, and the kind of trade that would make people go, whoa.
Yeah.
It's good. No, maybe it's not.
And they have to pursue those type of deals because you can't just trade 4 first-round picks. They don't have the first-round picks. It's like,
yeah.
So I have to get a weird guy.
And I don't know how I'd feel about that deal. I mean, I would be intrigued, though. Mm-hmm. I love Anthony Davis. I also love him when he's on the court.
Yeah, right.
I don't like him when he's sitting. And
which
means that a lot of times I don't love him.
If they're trading for a player, it's going to be a polarizing player.
And he's also somebody who how many times do you watch? I mean, even on League Pass, I'll see the random game and Anthony Davis looks like a hamstring or whatever, something, he's limping, and you immediately have to think only Zion Williamson seems more quote unquote snake bit in terms of being injured. And Zion's a guy who fucking tore his own sneakers out, which indicates he plays with a torque that may be too much for his body.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis just seems to get injured way too often.
Right.
On the other hand, he is a magnificent player when he's on.
Right.
And if you put him next to Gobert, I mean, and lacking that, I mean, on a much lesser basis, I'd be very interested in Lively and I'd be interested in Gafford.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have a surfeit of bigs, and especially, you know, with Coop.
Lively's out for the season, though, right?
That's what you keep saying, and you're probably right.
I think
I would even make the deal for Lively just so when he comes back, he's on his team. I think he's fantastic.
Well, and that's theoretically Baron J.
I know.
So that's a whole factor in this whole front court thing too.
But I'll give me the bird in the hand on that one. I will take if they offer Lively for Baron J.
Oh yeah,
I'm on it right now.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, but in theory, they have a Lively in the works there, which is just almost just for that reason alone, it'd be interesting to see Baron J play, to just be like, wouldn't it be helpful if you were Tim Conley to be like, man, I wish I could just watch Baron J play 5 games before the trade deadline.
Right.
Not even just to know when we think he will be ready to go. Because they very much believe in Baron J.
You're going to have to Tanya Harding Rudy Gobert then.
Or the 3 big lineup, right?
Right.
You got anything else? We're going long here.
No, I think I'm good. I did want to say,
go ahead.
I have my little stat sheet here just in case.
Just in case. Just for fun.
In 14:38 of the second half last night, Rudy Gobert had 12 rebounds and the team was plus 19.
Yeah.
Miami scored 40 points in the second half. Miami shot 10 for 29 inside the 3-point arc in the second half. Almost 33%, a little more than 33%, under 40%. For the game, they were 23 for 61 from 2-point range. I mean, that is as good as it gets on defense.
It's a representation, too. If you just bring in a mediocre offense,
right?
I think this Wolves defense is going to put it out.
In the month of October, which obviously was just like a handful of games.
Yeah.
Gobert was 26th in the NBA in rebounds. In November, he was 10th. In December, nobody grabbed more rebounds in the NBA than Rudy Gobert. He was second most in terms of offensive rebounds to Mitchell Robinson. Second most offensive rebounds, most rebounds in the month of December. When Gobert scores in double figures this season, the Wolves are 17-4. When he doesn't, they're 7-9. Last season, they were 33-14 when he scored 10 points or more, 10-15 when he didn't. The season before that, 45-15 when he scored 10 or more, 8-8 when he didn't. So the argument of getting Rudy somewhat involved in the offense, which Finch says to a numbing degree and doesn't happen to a numbing degree, is really kind of mysterious, because that's 50-21, 95-36 is what their record is when Gobert scores 10 or more, and they are 7 games below 500 in the games he scores only in single digits.
Yep.
I mean, who knows why, but I think part of the reason, quite frankly, is if Rudy gets a few points, his whole game on both ends of the floor goes nuts.
It's the confidence, man. Yeah. It's and then all the things that come with it. I think what we've learned about Rudy Gobert in the last few weeks, if nothing else, is when he's confident and feeling himself, there's a different level of things that he can do offensively, and he will do things defensively at a very high level.
I asked him last night after the game, I said, you are, your awareness has expanded. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, like when the guy gets a rebound, you're over there trying to cover the guy you think he's going to pass it to. And other times you'd often turn and go up the court. You're following through more thoroughly on plays. He said, I think I know what's going to happen more now.
Yeah.
And he says, I get in these, and I said, zone. He goes, in the zone. When I'm in the zone, and he used zone for the rest of these comparisons. When I'm in the zone, I think I know what's going to happen. And I get what he means, and you see it.
Right.
I mean, his anticipation is incredibly good.
Yeah.
And Finch is saying he's calling out his timing on his switches for pick and rolls and stuff, and everything is just razor sharp. And I don't know how long he can keep it up, but
I don't know what could throw it off kilter either.
Well, I mean, his teammates not being as good, him getting a little bit discouraged, getting housed earlier, not seeing the ball the entire first quarter, or something that just basically puts him in a little bit of a funk, and all of a sudden the zone isn't there anymore.
Remember that possession last night where Rudy was wide open under the basket and Ant and Nas both missed him?
Yep.
It was right in front of us.
Yeah.
And Nas walked over and said, it was like, Ru, I did not see you. I'm sorry. But he came over to like, I know I am giving you the ball. I do trust you in that spot. This wasn't, it was basically Nas's way of being like, I might not have passed that to you last year in that spot, but I didn't realize you were wide open. I would have gave to you.
Right.
And then Ant came over too right after that and it was like, we got you on the next one. You know, we saw you there. We didn't. That's
necessary.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. I think the teammate buy-in is such a different.
I really hope. I mean,
it looks like it at least.
People who are Wolves fans need to use their psychic powers or whatever to basically put good vibes around the team's attitude toward Gobert and Gobert's attitude toward himself.
Sure.
Because the guy has run the gauntlet of social media so many times. Well-known trolls have punked him, almost made a career out of it.
Yeah.
Europe, Euroball, and playing for your country is like considered a higher honor to most European players than an NBA career. He's been benched 2 of the last important international competitions. The guy has gone through it. And you can only imagine if all the forces are in his favor and he's in the zone. I mean, that's when they become a championship team, because you've got the other side of that coin. If Ant is doing what Ant does at the highest level, this is a championship offense. If Rudy is doing what he is doing at the highest level, this is a championship defense. There are very few teams, there probably, if I think about it, there might be some that can say that about both sides of the ball, that they have a guy who can lead you to an elite level. And, you know, that's why it's so annoying when they're playing with their food.
That's probably a good place to leave it.
Yep.
You guys can read Britt's column on DiVincenzo over at MimPost. You can follow him on Twitter and Blue Sky at Britt Robson. And yeah, we'll have him back next week. Coming up next on the show will be Kyle and I on Friday. We'll take off Thursday, no episode tomorrow. Yeah, but then it's two against the Cavs here coming up, and we'll keep talking about it. But until then, he's Britt. I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah. Hope you dancing.